Hello and welcome to this exploring session. Today we are looking at The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies. No, sorry, I'll start that again. Today we're looking at the second half of the famous victories of Henry V. As far as I can tell, there are only two armies available. To understand precisely where that joke came from, go back to the previous video where you will understand what the plot is of this play. All that really you need to know is that there's a king. His name's Henry V. He hasn't been on the throne very long. Some business is going on. We are picking up today from scene 9. We're a little way into scene 9 before we pick up and we go forward. So we're going to be going, as I say, from the exit of various knights, some of whom we will never see again, and moving on to international politics. And to guide you through the realms of international politics, we have a team of readers here who will take you through this fun and engaging and exciting play. So, in no particular order, reading the Archbishop of Burges, Justice, Herald, Drummer, Frenchman, Burgundy, etc. is...
I'm Alexandra, and particularly excited about the etc.
The etc. is just the promise that I've made a cock up somewhere that might be playing somebody else randomly. And reading Henry V, John Cobler and the Dolphin, or probably more accurately, Dauphin, is...
Hi, I'm Pamela Flanagan, and I'm an actor in London.
And reading the part of York, a wife, messenger, first soldier, and also down additionally as a soldier is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good, and I'm a historian.
And reading the role of Oxford, Derick, a constable, third soldier, and Katherine is...
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm an actor, writer, and director.
And reading the Archbishop of Canterbury, potentially the thief, but I'm certainly not sure actually the thief says anything more in this play. A king, King Charles, second soldier, and Robin is...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott. I'm not a professional actor.
And finally, joining us today, first time, we will all be kind and welcoming to the latest addition to our team. Reading Exeter, Captain and Secretary is...
I'm Kate Pitt. I'm a dramaturg in New York.
And I am your host, Robert Crighton, and today I am reading the exciting part of just the stage directions, or at least that is the plan. So we are, as I say, midway through scene 9. Some stuff is going on. On stage at the moment is the King, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and I think the Lord of Oxford, though he may have exited with the exiting knights, possibly pointing at them with a sharp, pointy object to make sure that they all go away. We will pick up the dialogue midway through Henry V's speech as he turns to the Lord Archbishop of Canterbury. Henry V, you're up.
Now, my good Lord Archbishop of Canterbury, what say you to our embassage into France?
Your right to the French crown of France came by your great-grandmother Isabel, wife to King Edward III, and sister to Charles, the French king. Now, if the French king deny it, as likely enough he will, then must you take your sword in hand and conquer the right. Let the usurped Frenchman know, although your predecessors have let it pass, you will not. For your countrymen are willing with purse and men to aid you. Then, my good lord, as it hath always been known, that Scotland hath been in league with France by a sort of pensions which yearly come from thence, I think it therefore best to conquer Scotland, and then I think that you may go more easily into France. And this is all that I can say, my good lord.
I thank you, my good Lord Archbishop of Canterbury. What say you, my good Lord of Oxford?
And please, your majesty, I agree to my Lord Archbishop, saving this. He that will Scotland win must first with France begin, according to the old saying. Therefore, my good lord, I think it best first to invade France. For in conquering Scotland, you conquer but one, and conquer France, and conquer both.
Enter the Lord of Exeter.
And please, your majesty, my lord ambassador has come out of France.
Now trust me, my lord, he was the last man that we talked of. I am glad that he has come to resolve us of our answer. Commit him to our presence.
Enter Duke of York.
God save the life of my sovereign lord the king.
Now, my good lord, the Duke of York, what news from our brother, the French king?
And please your majesty, I delivered him my embassage, whereof I took some deliberation. But for an answer he hath sent my lord ambassador of Burges, the Duke of Burgundy, Monsieur Le Cole, and 250 horsemen to bring the embassage.
Commit my lord Archbishop of Burges into our presence.
Enter the Archbishop of Burges.
Now, my lord Archbishop of Burges, we do learn by our lord ambassador that you have our message to do from our brother the French king. Here, my good lord, according to our customed order, we give you free liberty and license to speak.
God save the mighty King of England. My lord and master, the most Christian King, Charles VII, the great and mighty King of France, as a most noble and Christian king, not minding to shed innocent blood, is rather content to yield somewhat to your unreasonable demands. That is 50,000 crowns a year, with his daughter, the said Lady Katherine, in marriage, and some crowns which he may well spare, not hurting of his kingdom. He is content to yield so far to your unreasonable desire.
Why then, belike your lord and master thinks to puff me up with 50,000 crowns a year. No, tell thy lord and master that all the crowns in France shall not serve me, except the crown and kingdom itself. And perchance hereafter I will have his daughter.
And it please your majesty, my lord Prince Dolphin greets you well with this present.
He delivereth a ton of tennis balls.
What, a gilded tun? I pray you, my lord of York. Look, what is in it?
And it please your grace, here is a carpet and a ton of tennis balls.
A ton of tennis balls. I pray you, good my lord Archbishop, what might the meaning thereof be?
And it please you, my lord, a messenger, ought to keep close his message, and especially an ambassador.
But I know that you may declare your message to a king. The law of arms allows no less.
My lord, hearing of your wildness before your father's death, sent you this, my good lord, meaning that you are more fitter for a tennis court than a field, and more fitter for a carpet than the camp.
My lord Prince Dolphin is very pleasant with me. But tell him that instead of balls of leather, we will toss him balls of brass and iron. Yea, such balls as never were tossed in France. The proudest tennis court shall rue it. Aye, and thou, Prince of Burges, shall rue it.
I beseech your grace to deliver me your safe conduct under your broad seal manual. Therefore get thee hence, and tell him thy message quickly, lest I be there before thee. Away, priest, be gone.
Ah, good call there. Good call there. Yes,
Yeah,
that
that
seems
was
to be
the
wrong.
speech I made. That was the speech I meant.
I wonder. Well, I mean,
No, that must be.
I think
Henry
it
or
has,
York or someone.
it has to be two speeches.
yeah, it has to be split in the middle. The first two lines do seem to be the same archbishop, doesn't it? But I don't think those next two lines are necessarily Henry, are they? They feel like a lackey getting over enthusiastic.
The other archbishop.
Yeah.
Could be, or it could be York.
Yeah, or Exeter,
York,
or
York is the one who's had most activity, so I would have thought that York is the most plausible for that.
While we're paused, we're not at the end of the scene, but we've paused at this moment. It seems appropriate. There's lots of interesting things here. Henry does seem quite determined. He's declaring, I will have his daughter very early on there. You know, we've got the introduction of this match that's been thrown in. That's interesting. We've got the traditional question of what do you do about Scotland when you want to invade another country. That's a age-old question, which as someone who's half Scottish, is always an interesting one. I find most fascinating. And of course, we have the visual or the oral sound of the ton of tennis balls, which is just such a lovely turn of phrase.
Tennis balls.
Tennis balls. Yeah, there's so much fun that can be had with that.
I mean, quite often they if you like to emphasize the balls, it can do well.
Mm.
Intrigued by the inclusion of a carpet.
Say again,
By
Kate?
the inclusion of a carpet.
Yes, I was wondering about that. Do they roll out a whole court or something?
I'm wondering if they do actually. Maybe they used to play the tennis on carpet.
Well, no, if you look at what the Archbishop says, there are two messages. One is he is more an indoors person than an outdoors person. He's more fitted for a carpet than a camp. And he's also more fitted for a tennis court than for a battle. So I think that it's a double message.
So it's not a carpet for the game. It's just simply just for
it
could be carpet slippers.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping it would be a carpet court.
Yeah, no. I think it'd be a little excessive.
Yeah, wouldn't stop me.
I also love the fact that we make it absolutely clear is Lord Ambassador of Burges, because he gets his name 3 times in very quick succession. You're absolutely clear. This is who we're talking to. This person here. What's his name? 3 times.
But that might be because he was doubled up as somebody else earlier, presumably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's a question of with all the various Yorks, Exeters, Oxford, etc. They're all just sort of semi-replaceable random lords, aren't they? Whereas this person is a foreigner, must be clearly identified. We've been discussing how to pronounce his name, and I'm thinking, well, we've got Dolphin, we've got that. I'm just thinking it could be they could get it deliberately wrong when they say it. Is an option there. Additional thoughts before we.
With the scansion, it might even be Burges, because there was a hint somewhere in one of the speeches that Charles would probably be Charles the first time he gets mentioned. I just wanted to ask: is it my impression, historians in the room, or is the history wrong? The lineage part of that speech. Your grandmother Isabel is mother to Edward III, right?
Isabel was mother to Edward II, I think.
Yes, but there's also an
Edward III. Yes, you're right. Mother to Edward III, yes.
So it's presented as your great-great-grandmother, wife to Edward III, and it's
it's not. It's came by your great-grandmother Isabel, also via the wife, and so I don't think that's the same person. I think
no, it is. It's supposed to be the same. So the claim that gets sort of disputed with the Salic law, as far as I know, is because there's Isabella of France, who was the sister to like 3 or 4 kings, all of whom died without male issue. So then the English started claiming through her, and the French started going, no, because she was a woman.
Possibly, I don't know.
Question for the historians.
It's a question. It's a question for future production, or is it deliberately because the Archbishop isn't pushing for it, is he? He's pushing for going to Scotland. So the question of how much of a briefing has he taken here? Has he read his dispatch box?
Well, the claim to France was well established. Who cared about the details?
Yeah. Additional thoughts about this? We're about to finish the scene, so maybe we should crack on and finish it and then see where we are at the end. So let's say York. Whoever's reading York, say the therefore get thee hence, the end of that Archbishop bit. And let's move on to Henry.
Therefore get thee hence, and tell him thy message quickly, lest I be there before thee. Away, priest, be gone.
Priest of Burges, know that the hand and seal of a king and his word is all one, and instead of my hand and seal, I will bring him my hand and sword, and tell thy lord and master that I, Harry of England, said it, and I, Harry of England, will perform it. My Lord of York, deliver him our safe conduct under our broad seal manual.
Exeunt to the Archbishop and the Duke of York.
Now, my lords, to arms, for I vow by heaven and earth that the proudest Frenchman in all France shall rue the time that ever these tennis balls were sent into England. My lord, I will that there be provided a great navy of ships with all speed at Southampton, for there I mean to ship my men, for I would be there before him, if it were possible. Therefore come. But stay, I had almost forgot the chiefest thing of all, with chafing with this French ambassador. Call in my Lord Chief Justice of England.
Enter the Lord Chief Justice of England.
Here is the king, my lord.
God preserve your majesty.
Why, how now, my lord? What is the matter?
I would it were unknown to your majesty.
Why, what ails you?
Your majesty knoweth my grief well.
Oh, my lord, you remember you sent me to the fleet, did you not?
I trust your grace have forgotten that.
Aye, truly, my lord. And for revengement, I have chosen you to be my protector over my realm, until it shall please God to give me speedy return out of France.
And if it please your majesty, I am far unworthy of so high a dignity.
My lord, you are not unworthy, because I think you worthy. For you that would not spare me, I think will not spare another. It must needs be so, and therefore come, let us be gone and get our men into a readiness.
And they exit, and the scene indeed ends with a little callback earlier, the justice and the boxing of the ears, etc., that we had in the first half. I just calling back to the Archbishop, going, I really hope that you're going to give me a safe conduct out of this place. And Henry does, yeah. Don't kill him on the way out.
It's
York
almost a
does
threat,
that.
though, at the same time, isn't it?
Say again?
It feels like it's almost a threat at the same time. It's like, give him safe passage, but don't necessarily let him know he's getting safe passage.
Yeah, there's lots of held back and little insults thrown in all over the place. The Archbishop's earlier, to yield somewhat to your unreasonable demands. It's all nicely loaded and held back throughout. The moment he goes, it's immediately right. War.
There's also a really, really overt status change for Henry that's happening in this scene. I think it's the first scene since he's been crowned. So everyone is addressing him. Everyone starts whatever their line is with, "And it please your majesty, and it please your lordship." There are so many iterations of that. Everybody's trying to please the king, the new king.
And, we've got to remember, we started today mid-scene. We've just literally had the tossing out of the various lackeys and ne'er-do-wells that he had in his train. So Jockey and Ned and Tom, just before we started this, got all cast aside. So, he's demonstrating a whole series of things in this scene. It's such a swift turnaround of events. That really does show a nobody. I don't think anyone has a chance to know where the hell they are with the man, because there's so much going on. Any additional thoughts before we go further into the narrative? Nope. Okay, so we're going to meet up with some of the comedy characters we had in the first half. We have a scene with John Cobler, his wife. Derick makes a return. Good to see Derick again. We're going to briefly see the thief, and there is also a captain who we encounter here. So, scene 10, enter a captain, John Cobler and his wife.
Come, come, there's no remedy. Thou must needs serve the king.
Good, Master Captain, let me go. I'm not able to go so far.
I pray you, good Master Captain, be good to my husband.
Why, I am sure he's not too good to serve the king.
Alas, no, but a great deal too bad. Therefore, I pray you, let me go.
No, no, thou shalt go.
Oh, sir, I have a great many shoes at home to cobble.
I pray you, let him go home again.
Tush, I care not. Thou shalt go.
Oh, wife, and you had been a loving wife to me, this had not been, for I have said many times that I would not go away, and now I must go against my will.
He weepeth, enters Derick.
Now. Ho, Basilis Manus for an old codpiece. Master Captain, shall we away? Zoons, how now, John? What, a-crying? What make you and my dame there? A marvel whose head you will throw the stools at, now we are gone.
He will tell you, come ye cloghead. What do you with my pot lid here, you? Will you have it wrapped about your pate?
And she beateth him with her pot lid.
Oh, good dame!
And here he shakes her.
And I had my dagger here, I would worry you all to pieces, that I would.
Would you so? I'll try that.
And she beateth him.
Master Captain, will ye suffer her? Go to, dame. I will go back as far as I can. But an you come again, I'll clap the law on your back, that's flat. I'll tell you, Master Captain, what you shall do. Press her for a soldier, I warrant you. She will do as much good as her husband and I too.
Enter the thief.
Zounds, who comes yonder?
How now, good fellow? Dost thou want a master?
Aye, truly, sir.
Hold thee then. I press thee for a soldier to serve the king in France.
How now, Gads? What, dost thou know us, thinkest?
Aye, I knew thee long ago.
Hear you, Master Captain?
What sayest thou?
I pray you, let me go home again.
Why? What wouldst thou do at home?
Marry, I have brought 2 shirts with me, and I would carry one of them home again, for I'm sure he'll steal it from me, he's such a filching fellow.
I warrant thee he will not steal it from thee. Come, let's away.
Come, Master Captain, let's away. Come, follow me.
Come, wife, let's part lovingly.
Farewell, good husband.
Fie, what a kissing and a crying is here. Zounds, do you think we will never come again? Why, John, come away. Dost think that we are so base-minded to die among Frenchmen? Zounds, we know not whether they will lay us in their church or no. Come, Master Captain, let's away.
I cannot stay no longer, therefore come away.
Okay, this interesting callbacks, because we had all of these characters in the first half of the play. We had the comedy stylings of Derick, the clown, and the fact that he's effectively lodging with John Cobler and his wife, and they haven't got a great relationship, it has to be said. And we get to see it. We actually get to meet the wife and see how badly it's all been going on, because she has no time for Derick at all.
I wonder why.
I wonder. We get the call back to the old the badge joke we had in the first half as well. That's the same joke, just rephrased and reused once again. So yeah, they're all being pressed. The thief gets pressed. Derick tries to get out of it by coming up with the best excuse ever. Yeah, I've got two. Yeah, I've got
2 shirts.
Yeah, I want to put one home. I'll just be down the road. I'll be back later. It'll be fine. There's something quite unnerving also about this scene, I think, considering we got all these comedy characters, and you've got the captain who's utterly unrelenting, is he? He's just, you're coming with me. You're pressed. There's no discussion.
He's got a quota to fill.
Yeah. And he's going to fill it with all the comedy characters. This is how you make an army.
Well, it was
a serious thing being pressed.
Oh, sorry, Alexandra first, and then Helen.
Or the Navy. It was a very serious sort of, there's no disputing it. There's no talking your way out. Right?
Well, yeah.
Well, you could there was an awful lot of buying your way out. I mean, the amount of corruption in pressing for the wars in Ireland was absolutely incredible. The government were always trying to sort it out.
Though in theory, of course, you have service, and you are supposed to give your service in exchange for the various rights and exchanges of that's the way the society is still structured by that that point, because we were back to what, 1315 is that, or 1415, which is it? When's Henry V?
We're in 1415.
1415. I know it's 15. I can remember that.
2:15.
Yeah.
No, you've got to think 1580.
You've got. Oh yeah, well, you've got the dual.
These people are living in the 1580s. I mean, I think their sense of history, especially among the comic characters, was practically nil.
So this is a comment on contemporary
recruiting practices. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But which went on for a considerable period of time. I mean, there was similar. You could do similar press stories in the late Victorian period.
Yeah, I think of people being pulled off the street, but I thought it was interesting that the captain at least asked the thief, "Dost thou want a master?" It wasn't, "You're coming with me." It's, "Interested? Oh, okay, great. Now you're pressed."
No, it could also be in the sense of, are you short of a master? Yeah. Because if he already had a master, it would be difficult to take him.
Yeah.
Quite possibly.
Too much paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bit I was interested was the last line, but 2, we know not whether they were layers in their church or no. And I mean, there you've got, I mean, at this point, in 1580s, the religion in France, the confessional in France was different to that in England. Which is, I think, what this is referring to.
Any additional thoughts about the scene, the dramaturgy, the characters at this stage before we move forward? No. Okay, let's move into scene 11. We're heading to France, people. So can we enter the King of France, the Prince Dolphin, and the Lord High Constable of France?
Now, my Lord High Constable, what say you to our embassage into England?
Oh, who is Constable?
Sorry. An it please your majesty, I can say nothing till my lord's ambassadors be come home. But ye methinks your grace hath done well to get your men in so good a readiness, for fear of the worst.
Aye, my lord, we have some in a readiness. But if the King of England make against us, we must have thrice as many more.
My lord, although the King of France, of England, be young and well-deaded, yet never think he will be so unwise to make battle against the mighty King of France.
Oh, my son, although the King of England be young and wild-headed, yet never think but he is ruled by his wise counsellors.
Enter the Archbishop of Burges.
God save the life of my sovereign lord, the king.
Now, good Lord Archbishop of Burges, What news from our brother, the English king?
And please your majesty, he is so far from your expectation that nothing will serve him but the crown and kingdom itself. Besides, he bade me haste quickly, lest he be here before me, and so far as I heard, he hath kept promise, for they say he is already landed at Kidcock's in Normandy upon the river of Seine, and laid his siege to the garrison town of Harfleur.
You have made great haste in the meantime, have you not?
I pray you, my lord, how did the King of England take my present?
Truly, my lord, in very ill part. For these your balls of leather, he will toss you balls of brass and iron. Trust me, my lord, I was very afraid of him. He is such a haughty and high-minded prince. He is as fierce as a lion.
Tush, we will make him as tame as a lamb, I warrant you.
Enters a messenger.
God save the mighty King of France.
Now, messenger, what news?
And it please your majesty, I come from your poor distressed town of Harfleur, which is so beset on every side. If your majesty do not send present aid, the town will be yielded to the English king.
Come, my lords, come. Shall we stand still till our country be spoiled under our noses? My lords, let the Normans, Brabants, Picardies, and Danes be sent for with all speed. And you, my Lord High Constable, I make general over all my whole army. Monsieur Le Col, Master of the Bows, Signor Derns, and all the rest at your appointment.
I trust your majesty will bestow some part of the battle on me. I hope not to present any otherwise than well.
I tell thee, my son, although I should get the victory, and thou lose thy life, I should think myself quite conquered, and the Englishmen to have had the victory.
Why, my lord and father, I would have the petty King of England to know that I dare encounter him in any ground of the world.
I know well, my son, but at this time I will have it thus. Therefore, come away.
End scene. Listen very carefully. I shall say this on advance. I like the fact the Archbishop is admits to being afraid there, and it's interesting that he's actually quite impressed with Henry in a sense. He's a bit off message for being standing in the middle of the French court. That's really interesting. Harfleur. I liked everyone heading straight for the spelling rather than that was excellent. That question of crown, we had the question of crowns and crown wordplay in the previous scene with the Archbishop, and there's that repetition of things, and they have followed the Archbishop very swiftly behind him at his heels. Thoughts?
I have no idea where Kidcock's is.
I was looking at that because I find it entertaining that the Archbishop is explaining to the French king exactly where in France it is, as if he wouldn't know. Like, in case you forgot where that town you govern is.
I don't know why I'm telling you this, but...
But, it's on the river. You remember.
I really don't know Kidcock's.
That's a really good one to flag up for future us when we come back to this and look at doing something with this, because there's a whole series of questions here, and calling the various different forces, the Normans, Brabants, Picardies, etc., and just wondering how accurate some of these elements are. I mean, it doesn't matter.
The Danes?
Yeah, I know.
Well, the Danes make sense in some ways because, of course, they were the original Normans.
Yeah, well,
the Normans were Viking invaders.
Yeah, I think we're possibly pushing it, but maybe there's the logic to that we don't know and we need to look into.
Mercenary troops, possibly. Yeah, but the Danes weren't particularly known as mercenaries, were they?
I don't think so. Doesn't ring a bell, but I genuinely don't know. So
they were pirates, certainly, but.
So
that's a contemporary reference that we're missing.
Yeah, I was wondering that whether there's something to do with something happening in the 1580s that we're missing.
Is it a reference back to Amaleth?
I doubt it. I think we'd be pushing.
Me too.
We'd be really pushing that one there. Any additional thoughts about the French?
I was curious about sort of the contemporary meaning of haughty, and he is such a haughty and high-minded prince. I tend to think of haughty having a rather negative connotation nowadays, but it seems to be a compliment to Henry.
Haughty, arrogant.
Yeah.
I thought, which in that context would probably have been regarded as being a positive rather than a negative.
It's an interesting speech because he sort of throws insults and
half compliments.
Yeah, he's dangerous. So he's prideful, he's haughty, he's high-minded, he's dangerous. Yeah, it's an interesting word.
Yes, I think there it's more dignified and kingly rather than arrogant.
Yeah. He's not the man we thought he was.
No.
To the French as to the English. Okay, well, let's head back to Henry. Let's see where we are. Everyone swap back to being English again and take a moment. And enter Henry V with his lords. So we've got York, we've got Oxford, and Herald entering in a little bit. Short little scene, this.
Come, my lords of England. No doubt this good luck of winning this town is a sign of an honourable victory to come. But good my lord, go and speak to the captains with all speed, to number the host of the French men, and by what means we may the better know how to appoint the battle.
And it please your majesty, there are many of your men sick and diseased, and many of them die for want of victuals.
And why did you not tell me of this before? If we cannot have it for money, we will have it by dint of sword. The law of arms allow no less.
I beseech your grace to grant me a boon.
What is that, my good lord?
That your grace would give me the avant-garde in the battle.
Trust me, my lord of Oxford, I cannot, for I have already given it to my uncle, the Duke of York. Yet I thank you for your goodwill. How now? What is that?
I think it be some herald at arms.
Enter a herald.
King of England, my Lord High Constable and others of the noblemen of France sends me to defy thee as open enemy to God, our country, and us, and hereupon they presently bid thee battle.
Herald, tell them that I defy them as open enemies to God, my country, and me, and as wrongful usurpers of my right. And whereas thou sayest they presently bid me battle, tell them that I think they know how to please me. But I pray thee, what place hath my lord Prince Dolphin here in battle?
And it please your grace, my lord and king his father would not let him come into the field.
Ha! Why then, he doth me great injury. I thought that he and I should have played at tennis together. Therefore, I have brought tennis balls for him, but other manner of ones than he sent me. And Herald, tell my lord Prince Dolphin that I have injured my hands with other kinds of weapons than tennis balls this time of day, and that he shall find it ere be long. And so, adieu, my friend, and tell my lord that I am ready when he will.
Exit Herald.
Come, my lords, I care not, and I go to our captains, and I'll see the numbers of the French army myself.
And the little scenet ends. It's interesting. It does suggest what is the precise age of the Dolphin. This little badinage, very nicely played by the Herald there. Of it wouldn't let him come out and play. It's interesting, that plea for the sick and diseased men, and it's like Henry just hasn't noticed, and therefore he can now sort out the problem. So it's not his fault. It's just reporting didn't reach him in time, and that's why lots of people died during this part of the campaign.
It's an appalling, and why did you not tell me of it before? It is such a politician's riposte.
It has an awful lot of very current references, doesn't it?
I just didn't, we didn't get the report. I mean, how could you not have informed me?
That one can be infectious, although not symptomatic.
I lost the email, Gov.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a question of how many people are around him at the time. Is this actually active political theatre? That's quite interesting.
Yes. In Henry V's last speech, that isn't, I think, injured. I think it should be inured.
I thought that.
So why then he does me great.
Herald, tell my Lord Prince Dolphin that I have inured my hands.
That would make much more sense, wouldn't it?
I think so.
Inured my hands. I'm trying to find this.
Let's line up.
Yeah.
Before the exit of the Herald.
5 lines before the exit.
Oh,
of
yeah,
the
inured.
Herald.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah. Because you got injury earlier and that's thrown through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like injured. It's spelt injured, but it is, in fact, I think, supposed to be inured.
That would certainly make a lot more sense in context.
Okay, we're dropping down the social scale. I'm going to crack on a little bit because otherwise we're going to risk running out of time. So enter French soldiers. So I say going down the social scale, but also on the opposing team. There seems to be an alternating scene structure here. So you are all French soldiers. Good luck with that.
Yeah, right. Come away, Jacques Drameur. Come away, old. And me will tell you what me will do. Me will throw one chance on the dice. We shall have the King of England and his lords.
Come away, Jacques Drummer, and throw your chance and lay down your drum.
Enter Drummer.
Oh, the brave apparel that the Englishmans have brought over. I will tell you what me ha done. Me ha provided 100 trunks, and all to put the fine apparel of the Englishmans in.
What do you mean by trunks?
A chest, man. 100 chests.
We. Me'll tell you what. May have put 5 children out of my house, and all too little to put the fine apparel in of the Englishman's in.
Oh, the brave apparel that we shall have anon. But come, and you shall see what me will throw at the king's drummer and fife. Ha! Me ha no good luck throw you.
Faith, me will throw at the Earl of Northumberland and my Lord Willoughby with his great horse, snorting, farting, ho ho ho, brave horse.
My lady, you have reasonable good luck. Now I will throw at the king himself. Me have no good luck.
Enters a captain.
Oh, now what make you here so far from the camp?
Shall we tell our captain what we have done here?
Oui.
Exit drum and 1 soldier.
I will tell you what we have done. We have been trying our chance on the dice, but none can win the king.
I think so. Why, he is left behind for me, and I have set 3 or 4 chair makers at work to make a new disguised chair to set that womanly King of England in, that all the people may laugh and scoff at him.
Oh, brave captain.
I am glad, and yet with a kind of pity to see the poor king. Why, whoever saw a more flourishing army in France in one day than is here? Are not here all the peers of France? Are not here the Normans with their fiery handguns and slanting curtle axes? Are not here the barbarians with their hard horses and launching spears? Are not here the Picards with their crossbows and piercing darts? The Whos with their cutting gloves and sharp carbuncles? Are not here the lance knights of Burgundy? And on the other side, a sight of poor English scabs. Why, take an Englishman out of his warm bed and his stale drink, but 1 month, and alas, what would become of him? But give the Frenchman a reddish root, and he will live with it all the days of his life.
And he exits.
Oh, so brave apparels that we shall have as Englishman's.
End scene, and what a scene. Well done, everyone. I think that had to be done because it's written that way. I mean, it's clearly written that way, of comedy French accents, which the lords do not have at all. It's like our rustic war marmoset kind of thing for Englishmen. This seems to be cod French accents is the thing. What's going on in that scene?
They're dicing.
They're dicing as to the chances to take prisoner various important people and take booty off various important English folk.
And the valuable things that they're after are the clothes.
Well, it's just the parallel there. I'm just thinking back to dice games and Christ.
Yes.
You know, and that sort of sense of villainous soldiery being really suggested here throughout. I mean, they feel quite harmless in many ways, that cold reading. I'm just wondering if that's a deliberate sense of this is what the villainous French people and their snorting, farting horses.
No, the farting horse was English.
Yeah, no, I'm just in terms of what they're saying, I just...
Is it a chance, though, for the audience to get riled up as well, to, you know, on the English behalf, you know, to be like, oh, these French, you know.
It's almost like when the pantomime villain comes in and says, exactly. I'm going to have you all. I'm going to defeat them all and have my wicked way.
Boo hiss.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. It's an interesting question of what this scene is doing. I mean, there's obviously the pride and aspect of it as well, pride coming before a fall. How villainous, how comic are these characters supposed to be, and where do you pitch that? Of which I don't think we need an answer at this stage. I think this scene asks us a lot of questions.
I think in some ways what we've got is an interesting counterpoint there with the attitude and the speeches before between the king and the Dauphin. In terms of the complacency of, of course we're going to win. You know, and showing that mindset was spreading right through the ranks.
And then you have Henry saying, look, I'll look after my poor troops, and they're enduring terrible hardships, but I will do whatever it takes. We'll do whatever it takes to sort this crisis out.
Does Geppetto have a walk-on role somewhere?
Well, it frequently does. Any additional thoughts before we move on, Helen? I see it.
I'm the chair. I've been looking at the chair makers. They're making this chair, which is like the Thu or something. It's a chair of disgrace that you tie someone in for mockery. I think.
Yeah, I was wondering about that as well. I think that makes sense.
I mean, it was a regular thing in the marketplace. There would be a disgraceful chair for people to sit in, to be tied to.
Sort of an alternative to stocks or pillory.
Yeah, but it was mainly used. It was used generally for women as an alternative to stocks and pillory.
Because they do set that womanly King of England. So it's that.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, let's crack into scene 14. We're back with the English. It's Henry and Oxford primarily, and we'll have a herald coming in later on. So let's see where this goes. Scene 14, enter King of England and his lords.
Come, my lords and fellows of arms. What company is there of the French men?
And it please your majesty, our captains have numbered them, and so near as they can judge, they are about 70,000 horsemen and 40,000 footmen.
They 70,000, and we but 2,000. They 70,000 footmen, and we 12,000. They are 100,000, and we 40,000. 10 to 1. My lords and loving countrymen, though we be few and they many, fear not. Your quarrel is good, and God will defend you. Pluck up your hearts, for this day we shall either have a valiant victory or an honourable death. Now, my lords, I will that my uncle, the Duke of York, have the avant-garde in the battle. The Earl of Derby, the Earl of Oxford, the Earl of Kent, the Earl of Nottingham, the Earl of Huntingdon, I will have beside the army, that they may have come fresh upon them. And I myself, with the Duke of Bedford, the Duke of Clarence, and the Duke of Gloucester, will be in the midst of the battle. Furthermore, I will that my Lord of Willoughby and the Earl of Northumberland, with their troops of horsemen, be continually running like wings on both sides of the army. My Lord of Northumberland on the left wing. Then I will that every archer provide him a stake of a tree, and sharp it at both ends, and at the first encounter of the horsemen to pitch their stakes down into the ground before them, that they may gore themselves upon them, and then to recoil back, and shoot wholly all together, and so discomfit them.
And it please your majesty, I will take that in charge, if your grace be therewith content.
With all my heart, my good Lord of Oxford, and go and provide quickly.
I thank your highness.
And he exits.
Well, my lords, our battles are ordained, and the French making of bonfires and at their blankets. But let them look, for I mean to set upon them. Soft, here comes some other French message.
Enters Herald.
King of England, my Lord High Constable, and other of my lords, considering the poor estate of thee and thy poor countrymen, sends me to know what thou wilt give for thy ransom. Perhaps thou mayst agree better cheap now than when thou art conquered.
Why then, belike your High Constable sends to know what I will give for my ransom. Now trust me, Herald, not so much as a ton of tennis balls. No, not so much as one poor tennis ball. Rather shall my body lie dead in the fields to feed crows than ever England shall pay 1 penny ransom for my body.
A kingly resolution.
No, Herald, 'tis a kingly resolution, and the resolution of a king. Here, take this for thy pains.
Exit Herald.
But stay, my lords, what time is it?
Prime, my lord.
Then is it good time, no doubt, for all England prayeth for us. What, my lords, methinks you look cheerfully upon me. Why then, with one voice and like true English hearts, with me throw up your caps, and for England cry, St. George and God, and St. George help us.
St. George and God and St.
George,
George help
St.
us.
George, St. George.
And they strike drummer exeunt, and we'll go into the other details in a moment. I just love the way the Herald at the end of Henry's speech just basically just goes, what a guy.
Yeah.
You know, he turns up going, what, you know, if you like, we can barter your ransom now because you're obviously going to lose. And he hears the speech and just goes, whew. I don't think we need to worry too much about the accuracy of some of the battle arrangements for battle. You know, as much of which is clearly exaggerated in places, but elements of it are good. We get mention of archers. Always nice to have mention of archers. That's quite an important detail. I'm not going to mention the Hobbit Battle of the Five Armies anywhere at this juncture. There's always that slight danger with when talking about the avant-garde in the battle it sounds like the Duke of York is going to do some mime. I know that's not what they mean, but I always worry that that's going to get a laugh out the audience. I always like to hunt out the slightly dangerously inappropriate phrasings. That's a really nice, effective scene. I really like that. There's lots of little details in there. Battle plans are laid out. I see a map. I think it should be a map. Risk board laid out, you know. Thoughts?
It certainly sounds at the beginning when he's getting the numbers together as if he's writing them down and doing some quick calculation.
Yes,
adding up and subtracting and dividing and
Getting it wrong.
Yes.
Getting it wrong.
Yes, maths isn't great. I was thinking that. Like,
yeah. Well, no. Tudor arithmetic is notorious for being wrong.
Yes.
Really, really wrong.
And I don't think it matters. It just the 10 to 1. That's the headline figure. It doesn't matter if it's true. That's all we need to know.
Maths is done by Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah.
Wait, I was really interested in these. I always thought of sort of the stakes being down and the archers being behind them at the beginning of the battle. But the idea of no, wait until they're charging at you and then put them down, which sounds rather terrifying.
Yep.
It also sounds like a new idea. It sounds as though, okay, so they don't know to expect, stakes being in the way of their horses. So what we'll do is we'll pretend nothing's happening and then spring this on them. So I liked the fact that it was described that way because it made it sound very innovative. I don't know if historically it was.
I suspect it's standard practice by then, but I don't know. It could. It's of course coming from Henry himself. Therefore, he is the great military genius again.
Yeah, so it achieves that dramatically.
Yeah. We're about to go into the battle. Any additional thoughts in the eve of battle? No. Okay. Well, the battle is extremely detailed. In the stage directions here. We can assume that any modern director will do a little bit more than this. The Frenchmen cry within. Saint Denis, Mountjoy, Saint Denis, to presumably counterpoint with God and St. George, etc. Then there is the battle. Right, there we are. And we move into scene 15. Enters the King of England and his lords.
Come, my lords, come. By this time, our swords are almost drunk with French blood. But, my lords, which of you can tell me how many of our army be slain in the battle?
An it please your majesty, there are of the French army slain about 10,200, whereof our princes and nobles bearing banners, besides all the nobility of France, are taken prisoners. Of our majesty's army are slain none but the good Duke of York, and not above 5 or 26 common soldiers.
For the good Duke of York, my uncle, I am heartily sorry, and greatly lament his misfortune. Yet the honourable victory which the Lord hath given us doth make me much rejoice. But stay, here comes another French message.
Return of the Herald. He kneels.
God save the life of the most mighty conqueror, the honourable King of England.
Now, Herald, methinks the world is changed with you now. What I am sure it is a great disgrace for a herald to kneel to the King of England. What is thy message?
My lord and master, the conquered King of France, sends thee long health with hearty greeting.
Herald, his greetings are welcome, but I thank God for my help. Well, Herald, say on.
He hath sent me to desire your majesty to give him leave to go into the field to view his poor countrymen, that they may all be honourably buried.
Why, Herald, doth thy lord and master send to me to bury the dead? Let him bury them, at God's name. But I pray thee, Herald, where is my lord high constable, and those that would have had my ransom?
And it please your majesty, he was slain in the battle.
Why, you may see, you will make yourselves sure before the victory be won. But, Herald, what castle is this so near adjoining to our camp?
And it please your majesty, 'tis called the Castle of Agincourt.
Well then, my lords of England, for the more honour of our English men, I will that this be forever called the Battle of Agincourt.
And it please your majesty, I have a further message to deliver your majesty.
What is that, Herald? Say on.
And it please your majesty, my lord and master craves to parley with your majesty.
With a good will. So some of my nobles view the place for fear of treachery and treason.
Your Grace needs not to doubt that.
Exit the Herald.
Well, tell him then. I will come. Now, my lords, I will go into the field myself to view my countrymen and to have them honourably buried. For the French king shall never surpass me in courtesy, whereas I am Harry, King of England. Come on, my lords.
And exit everybody. The Herald says Majesty how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's quite a lot. I mean, it's like Your Majesty. There's yeah, they're really trying to turn that one around.
It's a really obvious signifier, though, isn't it? I mean, it worked so well, as we were talking about it earlier, in that scene where everybody's addressing the king as such. And I think it works great here as well to sort of... Because Henry says, oh, you've changed your tune.
Yeah, you're kneeling this time, are you? You didn't kneel last time we met.
It is, I mean, Majesty is completely anachronistic.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, it only came in with Henry VIII. So,
and also,
not that matters. The whole thing's anachronistic.
And poor Duke of York, he obviously died of a mimed injury. I mean, he would be in the avant-garde, and that's what happens. Some Dadaist poetry got him in the end.
The stage direction is aligned too early as well.
The Exit Herald.
Because it would make far more sense for Henry to say, well, tell him then I will come. Exit Herald.
Yeah.
Now my lords.
Well, as the general rule of thumb, all stage directions are in the wrong place until proved otherwise. I mean, that seems to be just the rule of thumb. I mean, I had enough trouble trying to tidy up where the asides lived in game at chess. God, they're all in the wrong place.
The Henry is still playing catch up with the French king, isn't he? In that last speech.
Yeah.
I mean, the French king's going out, oh, Lord, is that what you do after a battle? I'd better do it too then.
Yes, he's still learning. He's still learning.
Yeah. People have worried about these numbers, but in fact, for an early modern battle, they're not unreasonable because whichever side broke first died massively and the other side didn't so much. It's only where you get a battle like Towton where nobody broke and then when they broke they went straight into a stream.
And also, as you recall, was a real disaster for the French. I mean, the numbers were actually remarkably excessive because the horses got stuck in the mud as much as the archers. And the shape of the battlefield meant they all got funneled down into a very small killing zone. It really was. It wasn't good. I mean, whether the numbers are accurate doesn't matter. It's a reasonable representation of how badly it went for the French.
I just love that line about, besides, all the nobility of France are taken prisoners.
Yeah, I mean that was the big disaster. It was the noblemen that were killed and captured. As usual, we can ignore the peasants because they're not actually important structurally.
Boussard charge.
That's that little. Let's see what happened to all the fighters, shall we? Shall we go down the social ladder to the English side of the soldiery here? Let's see what happened here. So we have John Cobler, and we didn't see him earlier, but Robin Pewterer as well has obviously been signed up for service. Let's see how this goes.
Now, John Cobler, didst thou see how the king did behave himself?
But Robin, did thou see what a policy the king had to see how the Frenchmen were killed with the stakes of the trees?
Aye, John, there was a brave policy.
Enter us English soldier raving something. Roaming.
Yeah, I'm after. Well, what are you, my masters?
Why we be Englishmen.
Are you Englishmen? Then change your language, for all the king's tents are set afire, and all they that speak English will be killed.
What shall we do, Robin? Faith, I'll shift, for I can speak broken French.
Faith, so can I. Let's hear how thou canst speak.
Comment tu allez, monsieur?
That's well. Come, let's be gone.
Okay, drum and trumpet sounds. I'm going to let this run on into the next scene because here we have scene 17. Enter Derick roaming, after him a Frenchman, and takes him prisoner.
Oh, good mount, sir.
Come, you villagre.
Oh, I will, sir, I will.
Come quickly, you peasant.
I will, sir. What shall I give you?
Marry, thou shalt give me 400 crowns.
Oh, nay, sir, I will give you more. I will give you as many crowns as will lie on your sword.
Wilt thou give me as many crowns as lie on my sword?
Aye, marry, will I? Aye, but you must lay down your sword, or else they will not lie on your sword.
Here the Frenchman lays down his sword, and the clown, Derick, takes it up and hurls him down.
Thou villain! Darest thou look up?
Oh, good, monsieur. Comparte. Monsieur, pardon me.
Oh, you villain! Now you lie at my mercy. Dost thou remember since thou lampst me in thy short ell? Oh, villain, now I will strike off thy head.
Here, whilst he turns his back, the Frenchman runs his ways.
What? Is he gone? Mass, I am glad of it, for if he had stayed, I was afraid he would have stirred again, and then I should have been split. But I will away to kill more Frenchmen.
End of scene. Question here. Are these two scenes in the right place?
No,
Also,
Oh, yeah, they should have come earlier, shouldn't they?
they should be in the battle.
Yeah. They felt hideously misplaced. Unless there's something coming up that's going to explain that, as I recall, that's all part of the pell-mell of the action of the battle itself. I mean, some mopping up, the Derick scene here could be mopping up action after a battle, but the scene before doesn't feel like it at all. That's definitely part of the action of the battle itself.
I must admit, I'm not as worried about it being there because I think it could well be, the usual command issue. The generals have got an idea of what's going on in terms of the big picture, but word hasn't got down to the squaddies.
Well, that's why I think the Derick scene works there. I say the one before I'm fairly certain that's supposed to happen as part of the action of the battle. That's something that happens, midway through. But I thought that was important to throw out. There's lots of other fun things in there. I mean, obviously Derick, he's the clown. He doesn't actually kill people. He may say he's going to kill people, but he's the comedy. He can't kill people. He's there for comedy. Even French people.
I think if you do move those scenes up and place them as the battle, I think they do a really good job of showing in a very microcosmic way that reversal of fortune that we then hear about as having happened with the numbers, because you've got.
Well, so you're breaking up a tad. Say again.
The first that the English shall be killed. So it's going to be the Derick and Frenchman scene. It's a literal reversal, from one being on top of the other to the reverse. Did I just freeze?
You did a bit, but I think you were saying that they're sort of a lower class version of what's happening with the overall battle. Is that sort of what you're?
Yes, and an individual, one-on-one microcosmic version of what we then get told about with enormous numbers. And also it's a visual thing of and a clear literal kind of change in status between Derick and the Frenchman capturing Derick and then Derick turning it around on him.
And it makes sense because also it means that Henry doesn't just go off, there's a battle, and then Henry comes straight back on again. It's a straightforward breaking up of the action that you don't want your characters just walking off and walking on again. It's always a little untidy on a structural level. Thou lamest me in thy short L. I'm sure that I should know what that means, but I
Isn't
can't.
that a sword, a short L?
But it's also probably a linguistic thing as well. It's probably a pun. It feels.
Oh, yeah.
Or is it heel?
It feels like it sounds familiar from I've heard a similar joke somewhere else and I can't place it, but that I think is something like that.
Is it as simple as the French and the English measurements of the L being different? There's a joke about a tailor, about French tailors being cheaters because they use the shorter L.
Oh, that could be it.
Else.
That's one to flag up for future looking at. I think there's more in that Derick, and these French the Derick and the Frenchman seem to be got. I think especially if we actually look at what the Frenchman is trying to say in French, which I don't know, or for that matter, how good the Frenchman's English is. And I think there's potential there because you don't give scenes to Derick, you don't give scenes to Richard Tarleton, which don't have potential for additional physical comedy. That's why he's the clown. Let's move back into the main action then, assuming that one or both of these scenes may have been moved around. If we move both of them, then of course Henry does exit and comes straight back on again. So there is a logic to maybe the second one might still stay here or not. I don't know. But for the moment, Henry V, we have the entrance of both kings, Charles and Henry V, and their various attendants, secretary, etc.
Now, my good brother of France, my coming into this land was not to shed blood, but for the right of my country, which, if you can deny, I am content peaceably to leave my siege and to depart out of your land.
What is it you demand, my loving brother of England?
My secretary hath it written. Read it.
Item, that immediately Henry of England be crowned King of France.
A very hard sentence, my good brother of England.
No more but right, my good brother of France.
Well, read on.
Item, that after the death of the said Henry, the crown remain to him and his heirs forever.
Why then, you do not only mean to dispossess me, but also my son?
Why, my good brother of France, you have had it long enough. And as for Prince Dolphin, it skills not, though he sit beside the saddle. Thus I have set it down, and thus it shall be.
You are very peremptory, my good brother of England.
And you as perverse, my good brother of France.
Why then, belike, all that I have here is yours.
Aye, even as far as the kingdom of France reaches.
Aye, for by this hope beginning, we shall certainly bring it to a calm ending.
It is as you please. Here is my resolution.
Well, my brother of England, if you will give me a copy, we will meet you again tomorrow.
With a good will, my good brother of France. Secretary, deliver him a copy.
Exit the King of France and all their attendants.
My lords of England, go before, and I will follow you.
Exit the lords. Henry speaks to himself.
Oh, Harry, thrice unhappy Harry, hast thou now conquered the French king, and begins a fresh supply with his daughter? But with what face canst thou seek to gain her love, which hath sought to win her father's crown? Her father's crown, said I. No, it is mine own. Aye, but I love her and must crave her. Nay, I love her and will have her.
At which auspicious oration enters Lady Katherine and her ladies.
But here she comes. How now, fair Lady Katherine of France? What news?
And it please your majesty, my father sent me to know if you will debate any of these unreasonable demands which you require.
Now trust me, Kate. I commend thy father's wit greatly in this, for none in the world could sooner have made me debate it, if it were possible. But tell me, sweet Kate, canst thou tell how to love?
I cannot hate, my good lord, therefore far unfit were it for me to love.
Kate, but tell me in plain terms, canst thou love the King of England? I cannot do as these countries do, that spend half their time in wooing. Tush, wench, I am none such. But wilt thou go over to England?
I would to God that I had your majesty as fast in love as you have my father in wars. I would not vouchsafe so much as one look until you had related all these unreasonable demands.
Kate, I know thou wouldst not use me so hardly. But tell me, canst thou love the King of England?
How should I love him that hath dealt so hardly with my father?
But I'll deal as easily with thee as thy heart can imagine or tongue can require. How sayest thou? What will it be?
If I were of my own direction, I could give you answer. But, seeing as I stand at my father's direction, I must first know his will.
But shall I have thy good will in the mean season?
Whereas I can put your grace in no assurance, I would be loath to put you in any despair.
Now before God, it is a sweet wench.
She goes aside and speaks as followeth.
I may think myself the happiest in the world that is beloved of the mighty King of England.
Well, Kate, are you at host with me? Sweet Kate, tell thy father from me that none in the world could sooner have persuaded me to it if than thou, and so tell thy father from me.
God keep your majesty in good health.
And exit Katherine.
Farewell, sweet Kate. In faith, it is a sweet wench. But if I knew I could not have her father's good will, I would so rouse the towers over his ears that I would make him be glad to bring her me upon his hands and knees.
And he exits. And I'm just mentioning for those who were in the room when we did those plays, next year it's Tamburlaine and coming up, by the way. The year following this. And I'm not saying that this is very Tamburlaine-y, but there's a lot of elements here that's really quite off. I've written WTF at one point. I've written, wow, my God. I mean, Catherine's given a lot of status when she comes in. You know, she's there to negotiate, which is fab. And the opening of that scene with the gritted teeth of, my good brother of France, my good brother of England. You know, the terms of address, again, it's the same game we've had throughout this half of how you address each person based on their changing status. That's so really nicely done. And, you know, I've written next to Henry's opening gambit, you know, my coming into this land was not to shed blood, and I've just written, yeah, right, next to that. I mean, wow, so many things. Thoughts from the room.
Just on the address thing, I find it interesting that he goes from calling her Katherine once and then immediately goes to Kate.
There's no foreplay at all, is there?
Yeah.
No.
And then goes to wench quite soon after.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I think he whenever he says, go tell thy father, she sort of, it feels almost pointed to say your majesty. That he's always, I think he only calls her you once. Well, Kate, are you at host with me? And then in the next line switches back to tell thy father. So there's one point where he thinks of being polite, and then he's like, nah, we'll go back to.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something really quite. I mean, we've had this conversation about who Henry is throughout this. You know, the possibility that he was planning on murdering his own father at one point, which is a deeply ambiguous question that we had earlier. You know, he's got all the cards here, and there's no negotiation here, is there? It's just straightforward. You are mine now.
Yeah, and they sort of that aside of Catherine's to the audience is it's like it's okay, she loves him really.
Yeah, she's been holding back through all her dialogue. Literally everything that she said before.
And it's like that's there just to that's fine. It's just to reassure the audience it's fine. She's fine really, she loves him really. It's okay.
I mean, of course, we're possibly looking at this with modern eyes more than the play the expectations of the play are. But even so, it's an issue I think that we have to raise with a modern staging of this. Of what do we do with this scene? It's fascinating.
I think there must have been an element of it there, because otherwise the playwright wouldn't have felt the need to put that aside in.
But maybe the aside is supposed to be underplaying the whole scene anyway. Maybe we're just that this is a game between the two of them.
Yeah.
I was reading a lot of her lines as really sort of double-edged or kind of intentionally ambiguous. I cannot hate, and therefore I can't remember, inappropriate for me to love. Or unfit
were it for me to,
and then she's got other lines like, if I were of my own direction I could give you answer, but seeing as I stand in my father's direction I must first know his will, could mean both, if it were up to me, screw you, but it's my father's choice really, or entirely the reverse. If it were my choice I'd give you my heart now, but I don't know what my father thinks. So I thought that was actually well written, because it means that you can then play make it more or less needful for that aside, depending on how you want to direct it.
I mean, I don't think it's badly written. I just think it's very it's just difficult to swallow. I think that's the question here. How do you stage this? And I think the answer is very, very carefully. And as ever with this play, it's the question of what is happening physically, what is the dynamic between them, what is the visual that we're getting here, because that changes an awful lot of the scenes that we've looked at. With both on the comic side, what the clowns are doing, but also what's happening dramatically. We've had presented series of visual images, so I think there's a lot of questions there. However, I do want to crack on.
There's just one small thing.
Go, Helen.
Whizzing back to 2 lines before the beginning of scene 17, I think I know what the word means.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's somewhere from comment aller, as in comment allez-vous.
Ah, right, yeah.
It suddenly came to me.
Excellent. I make a note. Lovely. We've got 2 more scenes to go, I think. I think it's only 2 more scenes. So we're going to switch statuses again as we go back to Derick and John Cobler. They've survived, people. They're all still alive. And we'll see where this goes. This is very much the double act, people. We had the double act scene earlier. And so I think this is everyone in the audience gets a chance of a good old laugh. So let's find the jokes, people. This is the game, find the joke. So enter Derick with his girdle full of shoes. So you're laughing already. You're laughing already.
Oh, now? Zounds, it did me good to see how I did triumph over the Frenchman.
Enter John Cobler roving with a pack full of apparel.
Derick, how dost thou?
What, John? Commandal... I can't say it now. Commandale... Commandevale? Alive yet?
I promise thee, Derick, I escaped hardly, for I was within half a mile when one was killed.
Were you so?
Oh, trust me, I had like been slain.
But once killed, why, it is nothing. I was 4 or 5 times slain.
4 or 5 times slain? What? How couldst thou have been alive now?
Oh, John, never say so, for I was called the bloody soldier amongst them all.
Why? What didst thou?
Why, I will tell thee, John. Every day when I went into the field, I would take a straw and thrust it into my nose and make my nose bleed, and then I would go into the field. And when the captain saw me, he would say, "Peace, a bloody soldier," and bid me stand aside, whereof I was glad. But mark the chance, John, I went and stood behind a tree. But, mark then, John, I thought I had been safe. But on a sudden, there steps to me a lusty, tall Frenchman. Now, he drew, and I drew. Now I lay here, and he lay there. Now I set this leg before, and turned this backward, and skipped quite over an edge. And he saw me no more there that day. And was this not well done, John?
Massy, Derick, thou hast a witty head.
Ay, John, thou mayst see if thou hadst taken my counsel. But what hast thou there? Oh, I think thou hast been robbing the Frenchman.
Ah, faith, Derick, I have gotten some apparel to carry home to my wife.
And I have got some shoes. For I tell thee what I did when they were dead. I would go take off all their shoes.
Ah, but Derick, how shall we get home?
Nay, zoons, and they take thee, they will hang thee. Oh, John, never do so, for if it be thy fortune to be hanged in thy own language, whatsoever thou dost.
Oh, Derick, the war's is done. We may go home now.
Aye, but you may not go before you ask the king leave. But I know a way to go home and ask the king no leave.
How is that, Derick?
Why, John, thou knowest the Duke of York's funeral must be carried into England, dost thou not?
Aye, that I do.
Why then, thou knowest, we'll go with it.
Aye, but Derick, how shall we do for to meet them?
Zoons, if I make not shift to meet them, hang me. Sirrah, thou knowest that in every town there will be ringing, and there will be cakes and drink. Now, I will go to the clerk and sexton and keep a talking and say, "Oh, this fellow rings well," and thou shalt go and take a piece of cake. Then I'll ring, and thou shalt say, "Oh, this fellow keeps a good stint," and then I will go drink to thee all the way. But I marvel what my dame will say when we come home, because we have not a French word to cast at a dog by the way.
Why, what shall we do, Derick?
Why, John, I'll go before and call my dame whore, and thou shalt come after and set fire on the house. We may do it, John, for I'll prove it, because we be soldiers.
Derick, help me carry my shoes and boots.
And they exit. Some genuinely rather good gags in there. It was a really bad war for me. I was nearly half a mile from the battle. I mean, I was that close, I could have died. It's making your nose bleed and everyone calling you the bloody soldier. I think that's a great way of, it's no putting two pencils up your nose and sticking a pair of underpants on your head and going wibble, but it's one way to get out of war. I wonder about Derick's girdle of shoes. I'm wondering if it's revealed at the opening or not, because I like the idea that when he says you've got all this apparel, and then what have you got? And he just opens his coat and he's just got a whole parade full of shoes. I quite like that as a visual gag, and that suggests there's so much potential here. Soldiers, of course, that's what they do. They go home and they say terrible things to their wives and set fire to houses. Is that what was going on there at the end?
The rude and licentious soldiery.
Yeah, it's a really good bit of comic business, actually, and it does also speak to plot, because it's telling us Duke of York's going home. There's going to be a funeral. We're going to work the service to our advantage, amidst a bit of clowning. Thoughts on that one?
Sorry for corpsing.
It's all right. I was laughing too. It's fine.
There's a line that I found confusing, which is So Cobler says, "I but Derick, how shall we get home?" And Derick responds, "Nay, soon, and they take thee, they will hang thee. Oh, John, never do so, if it be thy fortune to be hanged behind thine own language, whatsoever thou dost. Why, Derick, the wars is done, we may go home now." Is that, and also at the end, John asks Derick to help carry his shoes and boots, but at the beginning, it's Derick who comes in with the boots, with the shoes.
I think he's
John
just
has various apparel.
Exactly.
So I don't know whether with those two notes, whether there's anything potentially to do with attribution that might need looking at.
I don't think so. I think it's just simply Derick's just going to load the poor John with as much of his stuff as he can. He'll be the pack horse for him. That's a good bit of comic business as well.
And the fall guy if they get arrested.
Yeah, you don't want to be the one carrying the stuff through customs. The stuff about the being hanged and going that seemed to make. I'm not sure what was confusing there.
Well, this issue of which of them has been thieving and what's going on with the shoes, and because it's so Derick is the one who's been stealing the shoes, and Derick is the one who says if they take you they'll hang you, and then go be hanged in thine own language after he's been asked, how shall we get home?
Yeah, I think the hanging is for desertion.
Yeah. Not for the shoes.
Yeah, how shall we get home? Well, if they take us, they'll hang us. If they take thee, they'll hang thee. If you set off,
Well, and then the joke becomes, if you're going to be hanged, you might as well, rather than be hanged for desertion, go home and be hanged for whatever else, whatsoever thou dost. Yeah, sorry, thank you for that. That was useful.
Any additional thoughts? Because we've got one more scene before we're rapidly approaching extra time. So I think we need to finish the play. Controversial thought. Scene 20 enters King of England, Lord of Oxford and Exeter, King of France, the Dolphin, Duke of Burgundy, and attendants.
Now, my good brother of France, I hope by this time you have deliberated of your answer.
Aye, my well-beloved brother of England, we have viewed it over with our learned council, but cannot find that you should be crowned King of France.
What? Not King of France? Then nothing. I must be king. But my loving brother of France, I can hardly forget the late injuries offered me when I came last to parley. The Frenchmen had better have raked the bowels out of their fathers' carcasses than to have fired my tents. And if I knew thy son Prince Dolphin for one, I would so rouse him as he was never so roused.
I dare swear for my son's innocency in this matter. But if this please you, that immediately you be proclaimed and crowned heir and regent of France, not king, because I myself was once crowned king.
Heir and regent of France. That is well. But that is not all that I must have.
The rest my secretary hath in writing.
Item, that Henry, King of England, be crowned heir and regent of France during the life of King Charles, and after his death, the crown with all rights to remain with King Henry of England and to his heirs forever.
Well, my good brother of France, there is one thing I must needs desire.
What is that, my good brother of England?
That all your nobles must be sworn to be true to me.
Whereas they have not stuck with greater matters, I know they will not stick with such a trifle. Begin you, my lord of Burgundy.
Come, my lord of Burgundy, take your oath upon my sword.
I, Philip, Duke of Burgundy, swear to Henry, King of England, to be true to him and to become his liegeman, and that if I, Philip, hear of any foreign power coming to invade the said Henry or his heirs, then I, the said Philip, to send him word, and aid him with all the power I can make, and thereunto I take my oath.
And he kisseth his sword.
Come, Prince Dolphin, you You must swear too.
And he kisseth too.
Well, my brother of France, there is one thing more I must needs require of you.
Wherein is it that we may satisfy your majesty?
A trifle, my good brother of France. I mean to make your daughter Queen of England. If she be willing, and you therewith content. How sayest thou, Kate? Canst thou love the King of England?
How should I love thee, which is my father's enemy?
Stand not upon these points. 'Tis you must make us friends. I know, Kate, thou art not a little proud that I love thee. What wench? The King of England.
Daughter, let nothing stand betwixt the King of England and thee. Agree to it.
I had best, while he is willing, least when I would, he will not. I rest at your majesty's command.
Welcome, sweet Kate. But my brother of France, what say you to it?
With all my heart I like it. But when shall be your wedding day?
The first Sunday of the next month, God willing.
Etc. And the play ends on a note that feels distinctly sinister, frankly. It's like, my dear brother of France, what do you say to it? Well, I have literally no powers whatsoever now, so it's cool. Yeah.
Whatever you say, Gov.
Yeah, and it's fascinating, this late entry of the Lord of Burgundy, who gets his name mentioned again 3 times, because he's obviously important. Is this something, is he important in, further down the road in later narratives?
Well, yeah, because at the time when the play was written, the Duke of Burgundy was the King of Spain. Was the Holy Roman Emperor. I mean, it was the Habsburgs. And they'd married into Spain and were now running half the world. So there was no way that France and Burgundy were the same. Or that Burgundy was a part of France at the time when this was written. Very odd.
Was that then perhaps a piece of jingoistic sort of, relish for the audience, just to sort of like the fact that they get to see the Duke of Burgundy, his nose gets rubbed in it? Was that maybe just a little extra relish for the audience to enjoy?
I mean, the oath is really, really strange because it's not a liege. It's a league man rather than a liege man. And all he's saying is it's an alliance of offence and defence. He isn't saying that he will live and die for him against all manner of folks or any of the other homage type oaths. This is straight offence and defence, a league. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, I was interested in that. If the oath that Burgundy takes, if I, Philip, hear of any foreign power, meaning the English are no longer foreign to the French, sort of who becomes foreign now?
Yeah, but I mean, all he's saying is, we are now allies. That's all.
But if the Duke of Burgundy, we're talking about Burgundy rather than France, then that's an additional alliance that's been brokered at this meeting, as opposed to the subjugation of Charles and his family. Which sort of makes sense. I think it's interesting. I don't know the answer to that. Again, that's one for further hunting and stuff. But yeah, obviously, from a jingoistic point of view, this is great fun for the English, isn't it? It's you get all the pies.
Yeah, because and also at this stage, well, maybe just a little later, but very close to this time in the 1580s. England was sending troops into Burgundy to fight the Spanish armies there.
So yes, there's lots of interesting historical questions. Let's talk about the play overall now that we've come to the end. I mean, Kate, obviously you've come in relatively late to this process and didn't get quite as much to read as everybody else. That in the future you get more. Sometimes a lot more. How have you found this half of the play, this narrative that we've got here?
I enjoyed it. I have one quick point on the end of the scene, which is I think we get an insight into the placement of those comic battle scenes. When Henry talks about when last I came to parley, he talks about the tents being fired. So it feels like the battle was ended. Everyone thought the battle's ended, and then the French came and burned his tents, which is why it was particularly abominable, because the battle's supposed to be over. They're not supposed to be doing that. So it felt like perhaps those scenes are actually correctly placed.
In the right place. Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. But yes, I mean, the first time, it really is a game of two halves. It works perfectly for a modern production because, you know, you put the interval there or thereabouts where we've effectively split our two sessions. You have two very different stories. The first story is all about justice and abuse of power and, you know, coming to the throne in a very effective way that I really enjoyed last week. And then this is a very different kettle of fish. And it's doing lots of interesting things. And so how have we found it?
I think it's missing an epilogue.
It does feel a bit like an odd ending, doesn't it?
It does cut out a bit quick.
It's an odd last line, certainly. But then if you've got music coming in there and a procession and stuff, it's not. And we never know what's happened with epilogues anyway. There might have been an epilogue that's didn't get printed. But you know, we've wrapped up. The comedy characters survive and they go home. You know, nobody dies. And Henry's you know, all geared up for a nice long life with his wife and you know, probably have a son, and it will all go fine. I'm sure it's going to be a great dynasty.
And Elizabeth herself was proclaimed Queen of France.
Yes, the never-ending hope.
Well, her coronation proclamation was actually from the Orkneys to the Pyrenees, which is a weird way of saying I claim both Scotland and France.
We know how Mary felt about that.
It was interesting, sort of just in this second half, to see the transition of, in the first half of this half, it felt like Henry felt the need to keep justifying why he was doing things by law. Even when he was talking about how his soldiers need to get food, he talked about how he sort of added a line of like, oh, well, it's the law of arms that we enforce it by the sword. He kept justifying himself. And then sort of the confidence he gets towards the end, where he no longer needs the law to justify himself. He's won.
Yes.
So that changes, and he gets a little more confident. He doesn't need to keep adding caveats to, well, I'm doing this, and the Salic law and all the other laws allow me to do it. He's done it. He gets Katherine, he gets the crown. He doesn't need the law. He's got arms.
There is a real transition of the character, a journey of the character through this play. You know, we've got both of the iterations of Henry. You know, the difference between Henry in the first half and the difference in Henry in the second, and even, you know, during the second half. You know, he does rise to power, and you know, there's a journey through that, which you're right about. He doesn't need to justify anymore, does he?
In a way, though, he almost comes full circle, doesn't he? Because the way he is at the end, when he no longer requires that justification. There's a kind of kingly arrogance to him there, which is kingly, whereas it wasn't in the first half. But at the beginning of the play, he was just as arrogant, albeit in a different way. So
that's a really good. I like that. That's a really good point.
It's true.
Yeah. you know, he had a certain kind of power at the beginning and nobody was checking him, and now there's no one going to check him
Ultimate
now.
power.
Yeah.
I mean, the receivers and the King of France have a lot in common.
Yeah.
They do.
They do. Yeah, and again, it's terms of address all the way through. You know, how people talk to each other and what how they address each other. This play does it all the time. And I'm just looking at the receivers now. You know, the way Henry talks to them. You know, you rascals, you villains. You know, every time he talks to someone, he's calling somebody something, or people are describing the person they're talking to in their own terms. This play uses that really cleverly. Okay, we're into final roundups. Thoughts from the room. Alan, any final thoughts?
No, it's been an interesting read, and the only comments I could make would attract the quack,
Don't even go there.
so
Don't even
not
go
going there.
Yeah, you're not going there. You're not going there. Pamela, any final thoughts? How did you find the king, the different kings? You've been both kings.
I have been all the kings.
Yes.
I have actually really enjoyed being king, and I'd like to stay as king, please. Actually, what I've really enjoyed is the kind of common people and how it has humanized it for me. And you know, you hear these stories about lords and you know what they have done, but its effect on common people, I guess, is more interesting. And so I enjoyed the fact that there was this comedy and that there was a continuity of the people throughout, and that they did live and made me happy.
Yeah. Sarah, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, that was my final thought about the arrogance. I mean, I suppose continuing on from that, like, it's interesting that he goes through a journey through the middle of the play where he starts off very arrogant in one way. He's then tested through different ways, you know, his relationship with the king, with his father, the way that changes quite dramatically. He's suddenly not so sure-footed as he was. Then he becomes king, and he's not sure-footed. He's sort of feeling his way through it. He's relying on the law. He's kind of making a big show, but he's learning so much. And then by the end, he's back to being Harry, albeit a kingly version of Harry. So it's got a lovely shape to it, the play.
In a sense, the famous Victories is a MacGuffin. It's not actually that interested in the war at all. It's about him within, you know, the framework the play gives him. Alexandra, final thoughts.
I really enjoyed the etceteras. The smaller parts, whether in terms of their impact on what we would think of as the impact on the story, or you know how much they appear, how much they say, I think are really interestingly constructed, and they have a lot of characterization, or a lot of opportunities for detailed characterization. You know, even characters that turn up for one or two scenes, like Katherine, there's so much in them that you can play with. So yeah, I thought it was and would be a lot of fun in a full production.
Yeah. And the great thing about this play is a full production is not actually going to require a lot of resources. I mean, we've managed to just about double this down to 6 with a lot of turning on a sixpence. I wouldn't probably go that far, but it's designed to be done with a small scale. And so this is a keeper. It's definitely a keeper. It's on my list of things we can definitely come back to at scale. And I think it should be seen more. Helen, final thoughts?
I wish I could do accents.
I liked your French.
Yes, I think everybody's French was wonderful. It got the sense of what we were doing, and that's the important thing. We're not here to be perfect. Just show enthusiasm.
Oh, we can do that.
Yeah. Anything else, Helen?
Not really. No, I've said enough, I think.
Yep. And Kate, any your final thoughts?
I think just related to Pamela's point, I think it's so interesting that in this play, it's almost the high and mighty who suffer the most. in terms of Henry loses the Duke of York and he loses his tent. He's going home minus 1 tent, whereas all of the rustics are going home alive and with a bunch of shoes. Which is not how it usually is. Usually sort of the poor bear the brunt. But in this, they actually turn out fine.
Yes, I think that's an excellent closing thought. There's some great looting in this play. I think we've had a blast with this one, and I'd say it's definitely going to be a keeper, and one we'll definitely come back to again, because I think there's so much more. We're going to go into housekeeping in a moment with the team, but for the recording, this is goodbye from me and goodbye from everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.